Is this thing working? Are we live? It looks like we're live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is my little contribution to the internet, basically a background noise generator, typically talking about, motorcycle stuff, engine stuff, you name it. It's more or less just something to have in the background while you're doing something a lot more important than whatever it is I'm talking about. I'm sure of that. And the live show offers me an opportunity to interact directly with you guys. If you've got questions, things like that, you might be working on something, I always try to help out with those. And also, if I've got ideas for videos that aren't quite working out as far as a standalone video, I'll work on them, or I'll just run them across you guys on the live show. And it gives me an opportunity to go over some of the bikes that I've done ride and reviews on. So with that being said, kind of a bit of a busy few weeks, I suppose. I've got some bikes that are coming up that I am looking very much forward to. And, I don't really want to let the cat out of the bag just yet, but it's going to be fun. But I got to talk about the bikes that I have been doing reviews on lately. And again, it's my chance to visit with you guys and get your perspective on these machines. But guys, I got to tell you, there's been a couple of bikes that I've done riding reviews on that have absolutely switched my opinion, whatever preconceived notion I may have had about a bike. There's such a big difference between what you see on just any spec sheet and then actually getting out and riding these bikes. We all know this, but man, I got to tell you, there are a couple out there that have absolutely been transformative. And the first one I want to talk about is that Indian Challenger. And why I want to talk about this bike is, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of I'm more of a sport bike guy than I am anything else. But I got to say, when I rode the Challenger, there was a few things that kind of jumped out at me. I did, and for you guys, again, that might be new, I'll do a ride review. In other words, that's me just riding it. And I don't really get too deep into the specifications, owner's manual type stuff. I'm not going to do a deep dive into that. I'm here to ride the thing and to tell you guys what it feels like to ride. Is it fun? Is it not so fun? What exactly makes these bikes tick? And so when I first rode the Challenger, I came into that experience having already ridden a Street Glide, which I really liked from Harley Davidson, but not really having a whole lot of preconceived notions about the Indian. And admittedly, although I'm not a cruiser guy, maybe I am a little bit snobbish when it comes to cruisers in general. I prefer a Harley Davidson. And the reason why is because it's a Harley Davidson, right? But it's not to say that there was anything bad about any other brand. It's just that the Harley Davidson, the look of it, the styling, everything about it is what everybody tries to copy, right? But the Indian Challenger goes about this in kind of a unique way. It is still very much a road glide, right? I mean, it is fixed fairing, bags, V-twin, but it's going about it a little bit differently. It is liquid cooled. It is dual overhead cam. It's got a much more powerful engine stock for stock. And I got to say, the ergonomics, the way that motorcycle handled, everything about it was kind of eye-opening. You know, it ran the way that I kind of had hoped that, or maybe I didn't even hope it ran better than the Harley Davidson. And that was one of the weird things about the Indian. That was one of the things I was not expecting. Now, the more time I spent with the bike, the less my preconceived notions mattered. And it was really all about more or less a re-education program for me for the Indian Challenger. I will say, from an overall build quality standpoint, I don't know who I give the points to here. I mean, the Challenger seemed like it was put together fairly well, although it does, for whatever reason, give off a little bit of is plasticky the right word, but that's really not a fair thing to say about this bike. It gives off that vibe mainly because the engine compartment isn't see-through the way that it is on a Harley Davidson. The way that a Harley Davidson does not have a radiator, that it is much more agricultural looking and a bit more, what's the right word? Traditional, a bit more, well, what you expect to see, right? It's the standard bearer for the aesthetic. So anything that falls outside of that is going to creep into that weird uncanny valley area, like an artist's rendition of a V-twin. But the fact of the matter is that this is what the bike has to look like so that it does what this bike does, which is get down the road exceptionally well. It's fast. And I mean that full stop. I don't mean sport bike GSXR 750, 1000 type fast. That's not the point. This bike is eerily fast on the highway from a roll-on point of view, that twist of the throttle that I wasn't expecting. It handles well. The thing is playful. It practically goats you into doing 100 plus miles an hour everywhere you go. It's got great brakes. There's nothing to not like about this bike. And again, with all the different technology and connectivity and whatever else that this bike comes with, it's par for the course now for the whole class. But for total power output, for what is in essence the base setup for the Challenger with the 108cc engine, 108 cubic inch engine, sorry, roughly 1800 cc's, it runs better than I expected. So again, there's that. And it did change my mind a little bit about this segment because I'm not kidding. Even Smoking Hot and I were talking about this bike, and I said, man, you know, if I could make it work, I would pick that Challenger up. That's how much I liked it. I liked the Challenger enough to where if things were slightly different, I would have bought that bike. And so I feel like it's kind of weird whenever I ride these things, I've always tried to come into, because I've never met a motorcycle I didn't love. And whenever I do ride these things, I try not to have any preconceived notions of them, but I did not expect the silly, playful nature of the Indian as it was such a, I mean, everybody should have one of these bikes, I think. So anyway, let me check in with you guys real quick. Sam's checking in first in. DM is in. I got the ball guy with the flex and the specs. We jump out of here real quick. Let's see. Sam is in. Ryan's in. What's up, man? Sam's liking the Trail 90. Trail 90 is a fun little bike. Great pit bike. Sam saying, so each message in chat is worth 25 experience. Well, I don't know what those are, guys. I really don't. Maybe. I have no idea. Ryan's liking the Indian. Same. When is 2 experience points? Now, I don't know. Yeah, I don't see what you guys are seeing on my side. I have no idea what any of that means. So y'all rock out. Indian makes a pretty bike. Harley makes a display case. You know, I tell you something. Harley Davidson's just a good looking bike. This Indian is just a great bike also. Sam's liking a banana seat. I don't know that well, it depends. Look at all bicycles that had those. Sam, you can put all kinds of chrome on that Challenger. Oh, Ryan, yeah, the Super Cruiser, really good looking bike. You know, the thing with Buell, if they ever did decide they wanted to put a bagger together, that would probably be a pretty nasty bike all the way around. Sharp's checking in and say, would it be good ride and review on the 636? Nice bike, but it's not taking rank over my Gixxer 750. Me either. Look, here's the thing. I really liked the 636. And we're going to talk about that bike here in just a second. But well, let's go ahead and talk about it. So getting into the 636, it's a good segue, my man. Let me just talk about this segment real quick. And let me go ahead and bring this up for you guys real quick. So the 636, here's the funny thing about this bike. And I didn't really mention this in the ride and review. And by the way, the live show, again, is my opportunity after I've done the ride and review and after I do my post-ride review. A lot of times the live show, and this is kind of how this is going to end up morphing, it'll give me an opportunity to sleep on it for a little bit of time. And then I'll come back, and after I've had some more points to ponder, I'll bring them up maybe on a live show, sometimes on a second video. So Sharp, here's where I'm kind of at with the 636. First of all, Kawasaki, I feel like, screwed up with this bike. Even though I know I had, absolutely just gave this bike a tongue bath in that review because it is really that good. And I guess the bike that I rode should be. It's got a 3/4 system, and I think that one's also tuned. So, yeah, it's going to run good. But here's the twist. Here's great TFT screen. Love the one direction quick shifter. Bike makes great power. But the 636, to me, I was, after thinking about it, a little bit confused by this bike. The reason why is because it's not homologated. In other words, it's not a 600 class bike. It's a 636. It's 5% bigger. It's not an R6, which is $599, GSX-R 600, $599, CBR 600, $599. It's a 636. My question to Kawasaki is, why did you only make it 636 if you're not going to build a homologated bike? The 636 could have just as easily been the ZX7. It could have been a 750cc. Wait a minute. Now we would have had a direct line of sight competitor to the GOAT of the middleweight class, the GSX-R 750, with electronics to come along with it. And so that's why, for me, the 636, I look at it and I go, damn, it's a good bike. And it does so many things so well. And you re-gear them, which the bike I rode had stock gearing, but you re-gear it, tune it, pipe it, and it is legit a track weapon. But because it's non-homologated, and it's not like Kawasaki never built a 750 in the past. I mean, Kawasaki's built a ton of 750s. One of the most coveted is the ZX7. So if the 636 were to be given that level of treatment, I feel like it would absolutely wreck all kinds of shop when it comes to the middleweight class of sport bikes. And so after I slept on it and after I got to thinking about it more, it just, I ended up thinking, man, they could have made it better. It should have been better, but it wasn't, right? Coulda, woulda, shoulda. You know what I mean? The one takeaway, though, with the 636, and this is undeniable, it's an amazing bike, but it's the price point. Guys, the 636 checks in at $11,700. It's just a few $100 more than any of the other 600s that are going to fall within this bike's class. And, well, there's not that many left. With the R6 having gone away, we don't have a 675 from Triumph either. I haven't had one of those for a hot minute, as a matter of fact. So now we're left with just the GSX-R 600 and the CBR 600 to go up against this bike. And, well, you can't even bring the GSX-R 750 into the conversation because it is so much more expensive. So where do you draw the line? And for me, the 636, it's one of those bikes that if you ride it, you won't buy a 600 because it's that much better than the 600s. It's got the quick shifter, it's got the ergonomics, and it's got the extra displacement. So because it's the same price, I mean, when you're talking this close, you just kind of call it in parity. It's the same price with the extra doodads, better when it comes to ergonomics, all that. You go with the Kawasaki. It's just that you can't bring the 750 into the conversation because it is $1,500 more, bare minimum. And that's where the argument pretty much ceases. And for me, guys, I would love to have a 636. The reason why I would love to have a 636 though is I would love to get one that is just completely ragged out. Motor runs great, but the rest of the bike is kind of roached maybe. Good frame, good bones, but whatever. Throw a rear sprocket on it with 2 or 3 more teeth, whatever, and just use that bike to do fun, stupid, like brainless stuff. Do wheelies with it, maybe use it as a track bike. There's a lot that you could do with the 636. I do have very limited exposure to that bike from way back in the day, but nothing that is really worth mentioning. And so after riding this thing and really getting to know it, awesome machine. But I feel like this is a missed opportunity for Kawasaki. If the 636 just had 25 cc's more displacement per cylinder, it would absolutely stop the conversation when it comes to GSXR 750. This would get the nod. And there is no journalist that would be able to deny that point anymore. A lot of journalists love the 750 because it does everything so well, the balance of it, the sound, the speed, the torque, all of that. They love the 750. They always lament the fact that it doesn't have a quick shifter. TFT screen can go back and forth. That's very subjective. Some guys like them. Some guys would rather have the analog clocks. That's kind of like me. But man, I got to tell you, either Suzuki just needs to outfit the bike with the 600 and the 750 with an up and down, or at least an up shift, quick shifter, and shut everybody up when it comes to that technology, or get you a GSXR 750 and just go to the aftermarket, put you a quick shifter on it. And that immediately does away with the argument of any advantage that the 636 will have over that bike. I was talking about putting monkeys or apes on a monkey. Dude, overseas, dude, they do some nutty stuff with monkeys and Daxes and even Trail 90s. Any of the mini motos, they go absolutely bananas overseas for those things. They do a lot of fun, goofy stuff with those bikes. Sam, yep, there's a monkey bagger, there's monkey choppers, there's monkey sport bikes. They love them. Ryan's asking, was the proposed new ZX7 going to be a 4 or parallel twin? Man, I tell you what, if they ever do come out with a ZX7, I've got to do some soul searching. I would like to hope, I should say, that it would be a 4-cylinder. Because to put ZX7 on a parallel twin, that dog ain't gonna hunt, baby. I'm sorry, but that's sacrilegious. I mean, you got to remember the ZX7. You had the FCR 750. There's bikes that were out when Superbike was 754s versus 1000cc twins, and it's funny. A buddy of mine and I were talking about this with all of the movement towards this global integration of 900cc parallel twins and triples and 600s through whatever cc 4-cylinders. There's with World Super Sport, there's got to be the 600s. I get that you can have an issue with emissions and whatever, but these are motorcycles, for crying out loud. Seriously, are we going to really start diving that deep into a motorcycle when it comes to emissions? I wouldn't. But the reality is that you've got an ass for every seat and a seat for every ass. And what I mean by that is this. I like bikes that rev. I like 600, 636. That's a great bike. GSXR 750, which has basically the same rev window, especially once you de-restrict it. It makes peak power about 13,000 RPM. My GSXR 1000 makes peak power just right at 13,000. So for me, I gotta say, man, I'm not a big fan of the big parallel twins when it comes to sport bike stuff, but there's a lot of guys that love that. They like the low RPM accessible torque, and they're racing all these bikes in World Super Sport. The problem that I have with that is that all of the big CC engine bikes are getting all the love right now because they are horsepower limited, but not torque limited. And so you neuter a 750, that means you've got to gear the hell out of it, which then can kind of mess with the dynamics of how that bike accelerates and how it basically works. And you're neutering it through RPM. And so that sucks. And anyway, it leaves kind of a weird taste in my mouth. But anyway, bring back, what I would like to see is 750 fours, 1000cc twins, and I don't know, 850 triples. I don't know. Figure it out. Anyway, the idea though is if you only look at race results, the bikes that most of us know and grew up with, they're all neutered because if they weren't, they would march all over even the best race prepped versions of the bikes that are winning right now, which I feel is a little bit weird. But at any rate, Sam saying we need a 5-cylinder bike. We had a 5-cylinder bike. Honda had one. Ryan saying 180 crank, sewing machine sounds. Yeah, yeah. I'm not. I just it's the 180 is very, again, that's a very like agricultural, like corporate motor sound to it. What you won't see is a 360. That's an older design, and although it's very it's kind of well balanced. It's pumping losses and things like that with that setup. So yeah, 180 is not all that. Everybody's liking the 270, and I agree that the 270 is a better power output. Sam, the Goldwing is a 6-cylinder today. It's a flat 6. DM saying, yep, Honda had a V5. They sure did. Turbines pop the world. Ryan, yeah, Honda's still messing around with that V3. We don't have any final word as far as when we're going to see it. Initially, they were talking about some type of an electric assist supercharger setup for it. We'll see. I don't think that's exactly necessary. And V-Odd is nothing new to Honda, and they've actually made V3s in the past. So, I mean, there are 2 strokes, but you get the idea. Yeah, are they going to move forward with it though? It looks like they're going to, but I just don't know how that timeline is going to shape up yet. We might be able to see some kind of a direction with that though this year at EICMA in November. So we'll see about that. So in general, guys, in talking about the bikes that I've ridden and what the overall vibe is, by the way, like just to give you an idea for which videos get the most attention. It's funny. And I don't really know how to say this politely, but cruiser stuff doesn't do that hot on my channel. And it's kind of funny because you would think that, those bikes have universal appeal, and they just don't ever really seem to get anywhere near the traction. Like that Challenger video, for example, has got half the views, and these things ebb and flow, and you never really know where they're going to end up, by the way, when it comes to views. Believe me when I tell you that. But the funny thing is that the most polarizing bikes are almost always the American cruiser type bikes. And the ones that are almost always the most accepted and everybody seems to kind of like are all the Japanese mid displacement bikes, with obviously one major exception to that being the Rebel 1100, that DCT bike being just absolutely on the top of the food chain as far as total views that I've done with motorcycle content. So, and I can see why. And I was talking, speaking of which, I was talking to Hunter over at Stubbs, and he was saying, look, man, that Rebel 1100 is a mad seller for them. And it makes perfectly good sense to me why. I mean, if you look at how popular that bike is, handles well, runs good, easy to ride, good fuel economy, overall great bike. And so when you look at it from that point of view, I mean, holy cow, why wouldn't you buy that bike, especially if you're not brand loyal, you just want a motorcycle, and really the only thing you want to do is get from point A to point B wearing a helmet. And so there you go. There are some bikes that are coming up that I'm looking forward to bringing to you guys. And it's kind of funny because none of them are really super, like, you wouldn't just go, oh yeah, I can't wait to see a Honda Shadow on Brian's channel. It's like, yeah, I'm going to put a Honda Shadow on my channel, because if entry level cruisers are something that folks want to see, I'm going to put it out there. And I got to tell you, all in, realistically speaking, that's the kind of bikes people ride. Matter of fact, there was a point in time where I was just kind of looking around and seeing what, like, if you pay attention to motorcycles on the road, what in the world are people actually riding? Generic sport bike checks in very high on the list. You'll see your Harley Davidson buzzing around because it's America and it's a Harley. But the probably number either 1 or 2 bike that I've seen, just if I think about it, if I think to go looking, are metric cruisers of some kind. Rarely, by comparison, at least statistically speaking, would I see a Sport Naked, right? More maybe with an MT-07 or an MT-09 here and there, just because those bikes really are that popular. But the metric cruisers make up at least 40 or 50% of the bikes that I was seeing on the road. And that's just with me trying to pay attention to the bikes that are out there. So be on the lookout for more content like this. I've got a couple of bikes that are coming up on Tuesday that ain't either one of those things. The DZ400 and the GSX S1000 are probably going to be the ones that are going to be in that loop. But soon to follow will be the Honda Shadow and probably a Transalp. So be on the lookout for those bikes. I'm looking forward to doing more content with more fun bikes like that. You know, the ones that people buy when they're just getting started and everything's new and exciting for them. TE's asking GSX-8R. I did the GSX-8R. And as a matter of fact, that was, I think, the second or first or second bike that I ever did with Stubbs Cycles. And it's no, T, you're good, brother. Listen, I wouldn't go looking. If you can find it, check it out. It's a fun video, but it was just as I was getting my feet wet doing riding reviews. It might be time that I do another riding review with that bike. I've done with the 776, it's the engine that's in that bike. I've done the GSX-8R and I've done the V-Strom. Looky there, I remember the name of that bike, but I've done the V-Strom and the GSX-8R. And dude, we're just talking about it now, right? That bike, there was a, and it didn't make it to the cutting room. It made it onto the cutting room floor. It didn't make it to production. There's a picture of me hugging the V-Strom. I liked it so much. I loved the GSX-8R. And here's the thing. So the GSX-8R versus, let's go GSX-8S, okay? 8S versus Hornet 750. You almost need to stop there. Don't bring the MT-07 into this because it doesn't make enough power, honestly. It really doesn't to be compared to those bikes. Here's the thing. The GSX 8S or 8R is a richer riding experience on the road. It's got a better tip-in throttle response, and that engine feels like it's bigger than it really is. But it kind of runs out of steam once you start revving it out. The Hornet, on the other hand, doesn't have that tip-in throttle hit that the 8 does, but it just wants to use the entire tachometer. I mean, it'll let you rev the thing straight to red line. So it's between those two bikes, flip a coin. The Hornet is more lively. It feels more like a supermoto than it does a Sport Naked. It's just like that in terms of nature. Part of that, though, is because it's a smaller bike. So again, depending on your size, the 8R/8S is probably going to be a better bike for you. If you're a little dude, then I would probably say go with the Hornet. But again, you got to try them on for size, see which one fits you best. You're not going to go wrong either way. But yeah, I was giving the V-Strom a hug. I loved it. I rode the V-Strom after I rode the 8R. It was separated by quite a bit of time. And shit, I might have even given the 8R a hug now that I'm thinking about it. It's just that endearing of a bike. And look, it was winning Twins Cup for like right up until the Hornet showed up to the party. So it's a hell of a bike with a tune and exhaust, a filter. You can get up to around 80 horsepower to the rear tire. So there's that. Main thing, though, is it's a great street bike. Oh, the Smart Film. Yeah, that thing. That's the same as the KTM 790. And yeah, and it does. The 801 does compete against the GSX 8S. But it's the same, again, it's the same setup as the 790, and it's well liked. The only downside to that, though, you got to remember it's KTM, and they had hella problems with camshafts with that engine. And it's one of the reasons why people started to, just move completely away from KTM. The thing is, it's a great bike. In fact, there's a 790 at the dealership right now, if memory serves me correct. So, but without knowing, you know what, let's take a look. Let's go see if that 790 is still there. Hold, please, as I am kicking over to the interwebs. Bear with me just one moment, my friends, because if that one's still there, I might be able. Now, that one is modified. Bear with me, guys. Just a moment. Let me get that one pulled. Oh, let me get that one if it's in here. Oh, you know what? I bet you that's on page 2. Hold, please. I don't know if it's a blank screen or what, but let's see. Yeah, here we go. So it's the 790 Duke, and this one has been a bit warmer, but it's this kid right here. Killer bike right now. It's a 2019, 6,000 miles, 6,500 miles, up for grabs for $7,600. So again, these bikes are out there. They're pretty nasty when it comes to outright performance. I gotta say, I probably need to grab that bike. And if I'm going to be talking about the 8R, the 8S, and the Hornet 750, I gotta at least give the 790 a shout. Give KTM a little bit of love, right? But there's a ton of bikes that are falling into this. Oh, and Ryan's saying, or the CF Moto 800NK. Yep, that's another bike that's, man, I'll tell you what, CF Moto is just kind of marching along right now, aren't they? D's got a car question. If they offer the new Charger with a Hellcat engine, would you consider? Not at all. Nope, because for several reasons. One, they'd need to make it all-wheel drive. And I doubt they're going to do that with that package, but maybe they will. But even if they did, think about the cost of the thing. Dodge, way too expensive. So It'll be nice to view it from afar, but I would not be an early adopter for that car. Plus, I'm just not a big fan. It's a big old car, so they're just too big. That car, literally, you can put the profile of a Charger inside of the old Charger inside the new Charger. Significantly wider, taller. That it's heavier. So no, I would be more interested in a Hellcat Durango, honestly. That way you get all the size. It's a 3-row, get all the power, and really numbers at this stage of the game are meaningless. It's got a lot of power. It's going to haul ass. It's going to do interesting things, but really at the end of the day, nah. Huge, yep. Sovereign. Oh, Mom's in. Hey, what are your thoughts on electric motorbikes? Okay, so here's the thing. In every type of bike has its place. Let's say that you only ride to and from a coffee shop, to and from, I don't know, going to get your hair done, whatever the case is. If as long as your total range does not exceed 70 miles in any one direction or another, then they're okay. But again, they're not. You've got to separate electric bike from electric motorcycle. See, an electric bike is something that's small, very manageable, weighs less than, say, 250 pounds. It's going to have a small battery that doesn't take too long to charge, with a maximum range of maybe 75 or 100 miles. In that respect, they're great. They're great for being a campus cruiser. They're great for, 15-minute city type things. As long as you're not riding more than, say, 20 miles in any direction, total range of not much more than 50 miles, they're great. But, and there's a lot of folks that love them. But again, these are electric bikes, more or less like an electric bicycle. The downside to these bikes, though, is you got to be real careful with them, because as the technology sits right now, lithium ion batteries have a nasty habit of overheating, and the technology won't, for whatever reason, allow for a lower discharge rate. Everybody wants more power. They want faster. They want more range. They want all of that. Well, the downside to that, and what creates all of that, is heat. And it's not uncommon when those electric bikes are pushed, some of them have a nasty tendency to catch on fire. And the problem with a bike catching on fire is it puts all of that intense heat in a very tender part of the anatomy. And so most guys or gals will have a tendency to frown on that. But in general, if you're within an enclosed community and you just need a place, something to get you from point A to point B, it's not that bad. But I struggle to find the greater utility for that type of a conveyance anywhere past that. And if you look at it more from a racing point of view, they're actually really good in that respect. Electric dirt bikes have a nasty habit of pissing off a lot of 450 4-stroke motocross guys, mainly because they do put down so much power. Enduro guys tend to like them. They're quiet. They don't make a lot of noise. But there are certain areas, national parks, that don't let e-bikes onto any of the trails or anything like that, again, because of the risk of fire and the fact that once one of these things spark off, there ain't no putting that fire out. So, I think that they've got their place. I think that if there is a much more realistic expectation of range and performance, they really can be fun. But I think the reality is that as these manufacturers keep trying to bake in more performance, they're potentially creating a scenario where you can have more issues than what you might want to budget for with those bikes. Hey, Mom. All right, where are we at? Oh, I just lost it. Hang on a second. Oh, by the way, it's time for a let's do a stream check. How are we looking? Is it smooth? Is it looking good? Is it sketchy? I always have to do this, and I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show, where sometimes the live show gets a little bit weird. It'll do stop, start, get all sketchy. Next thing you know, it goes blank. So YouTube to the rescue, right? Everybody, oh, you guys are saying good? Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Oh, Ryan's saying he rode the Springfield and the Chally and the Chieftain. And well, I'm kind of digging the Chieftain. Chieftain's pretty slick. I'll tell you this, man, that freaking Challenger really screwed me up, guys. I got to tell you. Oh, the subject matter. It's real. So for this one, not really. I mean, I'm talking about some of the bikes that I've done riding reviews, some that may be up and coming. So no, if you've got random question, shoot it out there. If I can't answer it, a lot of times somebody on the live can. So, speaking of standalone videos, so, I probably do a little bit more with the GSXR 1000 as I'm waiting on the GSXR 750. M4 is really hemmed up right now with getting that exhaust. I will be, so don't forget, I will be doing, if I can find it, I know it's in here somewhere. Anyway, I will be putting together the video, though, once the 750 gets back. Top half of the bike's getting filleted off of it, and we will be putting a quick shifter on it. So again, keep tuned. I know that there's been a couple of guys that have hit me up saying, hey, when are you going to do the quick shifter on the 750? Guys, it is still sitting up at Stubbs. We're waiting on that exhaust to make it in from M4. Ryan saying some professor, so Chally soon in the stable. I tell you what, I can't afford it, but I'll say this. If one were so inclined to add that bike to their stable, they would not be disappointed. It is really that good. Smoking Hot and I were talking about it, and we just don't really get a chance to ride together so often as we would like. But we do ride on the Bonneville. We'll just kind of kick it around town and goof off and whatever. And so we don't really take riding super seriously. The Challenger really would be more for me. And it's one of those bikes where I can't get it out of my freaking head. I don't know why that is. I don't know why I like it so much. But I mean, and here's the other thing. Even Smoking Hot was like, ew. And I was like, damn, I mean, it's a good looking bike, right? But it's not road glide good looking. But I mean, damn, it still looks good. And here's the thing. Let me pull this one up. I mean, dude, the red looks sharp. I like it in black. Let me get back over here. But it's a good looking bike in its own way. I will admit the road glide type fairing on the bike, it's a little bit like an artist rendition of what the Harley looks like. It kind of does look like a catfish's head going down the road, but I kind of like that too. Let me pull up the road glide real quick for you guys. Okay, so here's the thing. And again, I'm just going to pull up one of the generic roadies. In fact, let me do this one because it's red. You scoot back over here, pull this up. And I can't split screen, but I can pull up the road image. Okay, so look, that's the Road Glide, right? And so when you look at the Road Glide, and at first glance, it's it's a bit more like less is more. There is no radiator. It's more of a see-through look. Some would say that it's a cleaner look. I like the Road Glide because it has a fixed fairing. So for me, it would be a Road Glide um, or the Challenger if I were to get a cruiser style bike. But I got to tell you, it looks great, right? I mean, it's a hell of a good looking bike. And I'm over here kind of, the Indian doesn't look quite as good. But let's do this. You've got, again, the Road Glide, and then you pull up the Indian, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, let me pull that back up for you guys. Hold on a second. And then it's like, dude, well, shoot, man, that Challenger actually looks a little bit meaner in a way. And I think what it is there's like this panel where the passenger peg is. I don't know if that's throwing me off or what, but yeah, again, it doesn't have that see-through look. It's not as clean of a look. It's got a lot more going on. I don't know. Either way, it's a hell of a good looking bike. And I don't know. It's like the more I look at it, the more I like it. But I also know that it's just not going to be a Harley Davidson when it comes to just the sheer aesthetic. Ryan said, I need to take a Road Glide for a spin. You are exactly right about that. And, I rode the Street Glide, and I really like the Street Glide, but it does have the fork-mounted fairing. Let's see. Let me skip back up here. All right. Right. He wants it. Yeah, I do. T's asking, do you think the Gixxer 600 is better behaved on the street than the 750? He had heard that it was the other way around, but I never rode a 600. Okay, so I love my 750, and I think anybody that has a Gixxer 750 is going to say the same. The difference between the 750 and the 600, and the cool thing is I've ridden both of them almost back to back. The 600 is just smoother. It's not as buzzy at any RPM. The smaller the four-cylinder, the less vibration you're going to get, even when you rev them out. And so in that respect, maybe there's a difference, but neither one of them are bad in that respect. But in honest to goodness, bro, I'm kind of grasping at straws here to try to give the 600 a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more heat, right? The 600, because it's a smoother engine, what most guys will do with a 600 is they will go up in the rear sprocket a couple of teeth, right? Some guys even go so far as to go one down in the primary sprocket. That's how my 750, my track bike was. Makes it pretty rowdy. The 600 with that gearing, though, can be a lot of fun, and you'll save money over the 750 in doing that. But what you're going to not have is your, number one, not going to have a 750. And in the world of middleweight sport bikes, the GSXR 750, this is going to sound weird and it's going to sound like a stretch, but it'll make sense to those that are in the know. It's kind of the Harley Davidson of sport bikes in a way, where Suzuki, GSXR 1000, GSXR 750, there's a certain air that they carry with them. And if you don't have one of those two, you can have either one, and they're at the same status with most folks. Everything else is like a step lower, and that includes all of the 600s except for maybe the 636. But even that one doesn't get near the pub that the Suzukis are going to get. So not that that should matter. It's just that sometimes that's the attitude that you'll get. I'll put it to you this way. I have hurt a lot of feelings on track with a 600. And most guys that have got some experience on track, Once they start getting really good with a 600, they stay with that bike for a long time. And you'll find really quickly that the guys with 600s will sometimes snipe after guys with 750s and thousands in some cases, but 750s on track, mainly because a really well prepped 600 is it's not much distinguishable from a 750. I think the 750 is a better street bike all the way around, with the only thing separating the two, again, being a little bit of displacement, and that's it. And guys, look, y'all know I love my 750. I've made as much content as I possibly could with that bike. And the more chances I get to ride that bike or any of the Suzuki 750s or the GSX S 750, absolutely love that bike. And so whenever Suzuki has a bike, I always tend to fit well, which is important. Number one, let me jump out of this screen real quick. Just tend to fit well from an ergonomic standpoint. They always seem to run better than whatever their specification sheet says. And so, yeah, for me, the 750 is worth the money. And I'll tell you this too, from a resale standpoint, retail on a 750 is significantly better than a 600. If you have a 750 for a few years and decide to get rid of it, you're not going to lose money on it. Usually 750s hold their value crazy. So, oh, sorry, messed up. I am screwing all up over here. Timeout. Hold on, guys. Yeah, Ryan's loving his Gixxer 750. I'll be loving mine once I get the fairing on it and get the quick shifter installed. Yeah, and Ryan, I've got to get on a road glide. In fact, I've got to get that. I need to do a ride and review on a road glide so that I have that on the channel. I've got the Pan America, which was a neat bike. I really would have liked for that video to maybe found a little bit more of an audience because I really did like that bike. The Street Glide is kind of doing its thing right now, but I do need to get a road glide for sure. Oh, T's ridden the 750. Yeah, it's an awesome bike. I love the noises it makes. That row, 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 that 750, that pulse that it does going down the road sounds like an old airplane. I love that about that bike. And I'm curious to see if it's going to do it with the full exhaust on it. Oh, man, I did it again. Here we go. Let me get back over here. Oh, Ryan said the Power Plus Chieftain I rode was great. Truly a difficult choice. Yeah. Even for a Harley fan like Ryan, it was tough. It was a lot closer than you think, and that's the thing. So I'll say this, man. Look, if you are a dyed-in-the-wool, baked-in-the-cake Harley Davidson fan, and in a way, I kind of am a little bit. I'm a little bit snobbish when it comes to the bar and shield, just a little bit. The Indian is a little bit, you'll start to try to find faults with the Indian right up until the point where you ride the thing, ride it objectively. And then all of a sudden, you got there's some conflict of conscience that you're going to have to overcome once you've ridden that bike, because it really, I'm telling you guys, here's a fun one. So if you go back and watch that Challenger video, there's a point where, you know how I'll go out of the dealership, I take the right, you guys know the route, I go down, I do the U-turn, and I come back up, right? Well, oh, and I didn't give you guys this either. Fun fact, behind the scenes stuff. Okay, so, and maybe I mentioned this in the previous live show, but that Challenger video, believe it or not, is not video or take 1 or 2. That Challenger video is take number 3, okay? I had weird traffic issues on the first video. I shot the second video. So I immediately turned back around, came back, started the video again. The second Challenger video was really good. The flow of it was good. Traffic was good. Everything about that bike was good. And the freaking camera croaked on it. Luckily, I did a third take on it. I realized it. I did the third take, but I didn't think that I lost all that content. A lot of times it'll be in the phone and I can't find it. It's kind of weird how this stuff works. Every once in a while, goofy, like I don't understand it type stuff works. It's happened, or I say that it's happened once before. That video ghosted, gone. That third video was when I'm coming up the road and where it fans off, it's a long left-hander. And I'm just parked on this bike at about 3/4 throttle and letting it run through the RPM range. I didn't realize how fast that thing was going. So you'll hear me go, this thing will get you to velocities or whatever. That's why I'm looking down. I'm going, oh, damn, this thing really is that strong. Like that's when, and I'd been able to play with the bike a little bit, but at that stage of the game, I had to get the loop done with that bike. And so I was a bit more aggressive with it on the video that you guys see. And so anyway, that's some behind the scenes stuff. My first experience with that bike, though, was really good. Ryan saying the Chally does need a facelift. There's got to be something. But it's still a good looking bike. It's just that it has to house the components that it has, right? So radiators and engine layout and all that. Ryan's liking the fork mounted fairing. The only reason why I don't like the fork mounted fairing, and you get two different, I mean, it's just, they make two different bikes for a reason, right? I've had weird experiences with fork mounted fairings in crosswinds where it translates to the handlebars in a weird way. And for guys that have fork mounted fairings, it doesn't bother them a bit. And I don't know why, but I always like the frame mounted. Hang on a second. Did it again. I'll bump the feed and it rolls all the way down to the bottom. Ryan's liking the Indian moss green paint job. It's a good looking bike. I like all of them. That's my problem. I've never met a motorcycle that I didn't really like. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way as you, right? I'd like to see them do a little bit of tuck in the bags a little bit differently. But I mean, altogether, man, I really do like that bike. Ryan saying Evo, unless money is no thing. Yeah. Knucklehead be kind of fun, but man, these newer bikes are so powerful. They run so good, man. They are so fast. That's the other thing. I can't believe just how good these bikes run nowadays. Yeah, and shovels do sound good too. And he's saying, why not a newer style Harley? It's not so much, and I've got to get my hands. I've done a riding review on the Pan America, and weirdly enough, this is a weird statistic for a viewer or for viewership on a video. The post ride review has more views than the ride along view does on the Pan America. I don't get it. I don't understand that. That's a weird statistic. So, Tony, I just missed it up here. If you had to choose one and only one, knucklehead, panhead, shovelhead, or Evo, hands down, Evo for me. Do like the Evo bikes. Yeah, and Ryan, you're exactly right. I mean, they made the Evo for a long time, and it's just that good. In fact, there's a lot of text that'll say, "Look, dude, Evo," and then everything that started creeping after the Evo was just from a reliability standpoint, a step in the wrong direction. Um, Oh, Tony's saying he's not liking anything after the Evo. There's texts that I've talked to that have said, look, I mean, because at one point I was looking for a Harley Davidson for the channel. I was going to do a cafe build with one, and I was talking to the guys about some of the later bikes, and they're just going, "No, get an Evo bike. You're not looking for outright power. You want a Harley Davidson motorcycle, then get an Evo if you want to do something like that. Plus, they're inexpensive, and you can build whatever you want, and you're not going to be too hemmed up with it." So I would take their advice to heart. But with that, guys, we are now at an hour, and I got to get back to work. So, guys, listen, appreciate each and every one of you guys. Would not do this without you. And listen, I'm looking forward to getting these newer bikes to you guys. I've got, like I say, the list so far is going to include the DZ400. We've got the GSX S1000 coming up. Probably will get a Shadow in there because it's a great selling bike. People like to see that content. But from there, we're going to take a look at maybe an R6 that's in inventory, the Duke 790, and what else? I think that's pretty much it for the very near future. And fingers crossed, GSX R750 makes it back to the stable sooner than later, and we will get back to hot riding that machine. So with that, guys, no plans for any newer additions to the stable, but there never are any plans. Things just kind of show up. You know how that goes. Anyway, I have a very understanding wife. Guys, listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, guys, that's a wrap. Y'all take care. Thanks again.